Hi, I'm Richard Wheeler, and this is Richard Wheeler Works. It's a show where I work. And this is another special edition, special episode. I have this piece of mirrors. Hair. It's going to annoy me. Hold on a second. That's better. Segment called FBO Forever, where we're looking at federal government, U.S. federal government acquisitions. And we're looking at government acquisition of podcast services, equipment, so equipment to make podcasts, services and equipment, as opposed to like buying a subscription to Spotify, let's say, or some other platform through which you could get access to podcasts. This is making podcasts. So we at last time had gotten to a point where I had downloaded some information from sam.gov, and we'd made sort of a first stab at making sense of that. Yes, and we had a pivot table going over here. And this was a pivot table about NAICS, the North American Industry Classification System description, and product service code description. But another kind of pivot table we could do is one based on customer, right, which might be a little bit more interesting for the general viewer. So data pivot table. So this is this pivot table. So let's go back to sheet one. That's sheet one. Oh, this is our field dictionary. Okay, now we're gonna do pivot table. We'll do a new one. Do a sheet. Data range is gonna be from transactions. Oh, here we go. Suggest. Yeah, this is like really slow. Anyway. Parent award agency. All these have an agency, awarding sub-agency. Awarding agency. Awarding sub-agency. So let's do this. Okay. New sheet. Just trying to move this over here. Doesn't want to do it. Try again. We're going to say contracts pivot pico is something different. 2. And we're going to add agency code and add agency name. And add sub-agency code, just doot. Here we go. Add sub-agency name. Awarding office code. And this will just help us. This isn't. We'll do counts at awarding office name. is that? Oh, because format, text rotation, 90-degree angle. Okay. You know, some people this wouldn't bother. This bothers me. Bothers me. The things aren't aligned the same way. Okay. Okay, so here we go. Now we're down to this. So this is one way to do it, is to do a pivot table. I don't like pivot tables. I've never been into them. I know they do a lot of things. That's not my jam. But they're going to do what we need to do now, which is we're going to say, okay, so this is, let's view freeze one row, and we're going to freeze two columns. So now we're going to go down and say, so this rightmost column is the office that bought the podcast services or things. We're not delineated or distinguishing between that now, or delineating between that. But let's see, Library of Congress. That I wish this pivot table editor thing would stop popping up. Okay. Department of Agriculture. Procurement operations, which they have a centralized procurement center. Alaska Regional Office is probably the Forest Service. I don't know. Yeah, National Forest. I never know how to pronounce that. Toyabe. Don't know. Rocky Mountain Research Station. Okay, so they've got at least 7 podcasts going on in ag, right? Department of Commerce, we've got at least 5 sub-agencies: NOAA, National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration, the National Institute of Standards and Testing, Department of Commerce Patent and Trademark Office, that's the USPTO. Oh, that's listed twice. So, but at least 5 podcasts, we're assuming. I'm assuming like 1 per, because this was supposed to count and it didn't count. Okay, whatever. Department of Interior seems to have a number, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Maybe 9 at Interior. Justice has at least 3. State has maybe 3. American Embassy Berlin. Treasury's maybe got 1. FCC's got maybe 1. VA has got maybe 4. And we can look at some like from the VA website side. GSA, well, it doesn't tell us a lot. EPA, Department of Transportation has maybe 1. Homeland Security, USAID's got 3. NIH 3, NASA 3, Department of Education 1, and DoD, not surprisingly, has got a bunch because we spent a lot of money on defense and everything related to it, including podcasts. No surprise here. Okay, so that's one way to do it with a pivot table. But that doesn't really help me get to a list of podcasts, does it? How do I do this? How do I do this efficiently? It's not through this CSV dump, right? Because this doesn't. One of these things with these CSV dumps that you can see is that they don't link back. Like there's no URLs. I can go in to the, oh god, it's endless, isn't it? It tells you a lot about the contracting stuff, which is interesting. But we're just trying to figure out, like, how do we understand. So I went through here, right, and I said, I marked what I thought were, is that on this one or the other one? Oh, there is a link here. Okay. Sorry, take that back. I went in and oh, right, I hid it here. But I went in and I said things that are probably podcasts, things that are equipment, and things that are interesting for other reasons. So let's do... and wait, was this from... Oh, shoot. Now I don't... Yeah, this was from USA Spending, right? Because Sam was not down. So let's go back to Sam now and do podcasts and do inactive, because we're trying to match up with what was, whoa, oh, 4 million. No, kidding. And there, through FOIA requests and other things, you can get this as a database. There's ways you can hit this with APIs. I mean, there's other stuff you can do. I'm just not capable of doing it right now. I'm capable of downloading CSVs and putting them into spreadsheets. That's about where I'm at. Okay, so I've got this, and COD equipment, list of intent to sole source. So let's take a look at this. Yeah, this is about podcasts are this is a lesser included. This is a whole. Podcasts are a lesser included. This is a whole program. So let's find it better. See, Political Pro subscription. That's what I'm talking about. That's a thing that's like, they're just media monitoring service, U.S. Embassy, Bern, Switzerland. That's public. This whole health project. Make a website. That's interesting. Request for information. COTS training software. PEO. Program Executive Office. Media monitoring. Media news aggregator software. That's interesting. You see, a lot of this isn't really about. So this is interesting, right? A lot of this is not. About making podcasts. It's about buying other stuff. But then a fair amount. Oh, just look at me looking at the screen. A fair amount of podcasts. Let's see. Each effort will include identifying audiences, unique information, recommend. See, this is again podcast is a lesser included. Let's just go back to USA spending for a second. Now I'm going back over the same ground I was going over before. I've done some other things in the meantime. This is all out of order. There is no order. Like this is somebody who has to look at this, is interested in looking at this. This is kind of other assigned duties for me. It's just not like what I do every day. Just disclaimer, there are probably people who can do this better and faster and all these other things. But that's not kind of this is an average skill level cooking show. This is okay. Let's be honest here. Podcast. We're doing all fiscal years. So let's search. Oh, and we were doing yeah. So right. I never knew what that stood for. PIID, Procurement Instrument Identifier. So this is kind of hard for you to see here. It says simplified acquisition procedures. What does that mean? That means that that's allowing the government to just buy something without competing it. That's the gist of it. Under a certain amount. This was $325,000. $325,400. So that, yeah, for Health and Human Services, National Institute of Environmental something. If you can see, that tells you what congressional district they're in. All sorts of stuff in here. It's just making sense of it all, right? So, let's go back to this. Oh, I didn't. Okay. There are 139 records in here. And this is at a transaction level. It's just prime. And there's others that are sub. This is so okay. This is the office level. This is some okay. So this is not the way. Well, I don't know what other people do. I'm just going to show you what I'm would do here. So I'm gonna I mean, yeah, let's do it this way. We're just gonna reverse these. Okay. In terms of hierarchy. Because, you know, the Department of Defense is massive. The Department of Defense buys things. You might have watched the, you know, a later episode is going to be a one about buying fitness stuff, yoga classes, and fitness equipment. And DoD is purchased a bunch of this, but it's like that means that there's some contracting activity inside DoD that purchased a lot of fitness equipment for a sub organization, right? For an office, right. So that's what we're interested in here. So if I do this and I say data, data, where is what I'm looking for? Which is remove duplicates. There we go. So we've got we've reduced that list of 140 things here to, or sorry, 139 rows to now we've got 65. So we've cut it in half, right? Why does Navy Special Warfare Command buy podcasts? I guess maybe the Jocko podcast is paid for by the Navy Special Warfare Command. Who knows, right? So let's just get all this. So there's a function equals count if, let's go back to this table, we're going to say how many times do we see this office, and we're going to do this, we're going to do the code. Doing codes is better, right? Always better. So we've got two instances of Department of Commerce National Institute of Standards and Technology. That could either mean they have two actions. They've done two separate podcasts, right? Wow. National Institute of Health Education, NIEHS. Don't know what that is. So here, let's do this. Let's now do, well, so we can sort this now by basically now we've rank ordered. What is... I can figure what that is. Oh, these are the same? Oh, look at this is interesting. They've got two different... they've entered the name of the organization differently, but so overall there's 7 of this. That's why searching on the unique identifier is important. Okay, so in terms of offices, this organization has done the most. And again, this is not definitive contracts, these are transactions. Equals count. Okay. So 25 and 24, that means there's one other NIH podcast out there. And since this one will be down at the bottom. But NIH, because of that, oh yeah, it is clearly the winner at the sub-agency level. Let's do this too. Let's take these and make these all 50. Okay, and then we're going to see text. And say equals count if wording agency level. Health and Human Services is above the National Institutes of Health, but doesn't. It includes other things. Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. So right. Not surprisingly, just by dint of the amount of money it spends in general, DoD has 28 actions here. So different things I could do here. One is to, well, I should look at the amount of money that's being spent, not just the count, right? Let's say high, low, average, total, right? Let's figure those things out. You know, from a targeting point of view, that's kind of important. So we'll go back here. We're actually going to make these a little smaller for that reason. We're going to say resize select comps on 250. So we got a count here. So let's say, so we said high, low, average, total, right? So we're going to actually do 2 more here. And this I'm actually going to do that for a reason. So we're going to say max if S. So what's it saying? It's saying right, what am I maxing? I'm maxing do they have money in there somewhere? Federal action total base. All right, let's do that. And it's going to be based on awarding agency office. And it's I don't even need to do that. Sorry for this. Okay, and we're going to say so the first part is what we're evaluating to find the maximum value. The second is the sort of the lookup range, and then the third is the value we are looking up. In this case, we're looking up this awarding office code. A2 and so the maximum amount that was spent is 325. You know, I think if we do min, here, let's do this. That's max, that's min. So we'll do min if S here. I think it'll be 0. Because they're, oh, it's negative. No, okay, so this is not useful, right? Because what's this telling us? This is telling us that the federal government clawed back money. That's not really telling us about, well, this is a transaction level view too, right? Like it's not an award level view. You know, so, but let's remove this. So we're saying we want everything that's from this office, but that now we're going to say we're going to go back to that value. We're going to say equals greater than and 0. So we're saying I want all non-negative and non-zero actions here. Because sometimes a transaction will be like just a contract modification or something. Like there'll be, you see a lot of $0 transactions, which is like, what does that mean? You know, it means that something happened, but no money exchanged hands, so something contractual happened. So now we've taken out all, with this formula, non-negative and non-zero. So we're basically saying the government is spending between 30 and 325,000. This National Institutes of Health, NIEHS. So now we're going to say, we'll take this again. This has the, exclude the non-negative, non-zero. And we're going to say average if S. Now, some of these commands or some of these functions, don't. I'm going to take out the decimals because they're basically rounding errors for our analysis. If you're typically an Excel user, you may be seeing functions that, and you haven't transitioned or experimented with Google Sheets, you may be seeing functions that you're not familiar with. There's an expanded set of functions inside it. And there's some of these are logical expansions, I think, based on the minimum set in Excel, and some of these are just things that you can do because you're networked. You could hit websites and do things like that. So that's cool. So this was min, max, average, total. So this is going to be now. So for this one, I'm not going to remove the non-negatives because the money that the government clawed back matters in terms of their total spend. So government spent and let's do let's actually do we'll do this. So 1 million does that track? I mean, 24 times, well, so yeah, 24 times 100,000 would be 2.4 million. They spent 1 million, so there's some negative things there. There's some $0 things. We could count the number of times they claw back money. We could do a lot of things. State. So, so this is, remember, we identified some things as being equipment or not podcast production. Could go in here. All right, well, this is the copy where we did that. This, do this. So what I was doing there, I was trying to change the name, and it wasn't letting me because it's too long. So now I have this. Let's just say, sorry, P. 2021. Just standardize this. I'm gonna move this forward because this is really what I should be looking at. So, okay, so let's go back here. And instead of it being, take this. It should be 2. I'm going to see what I'm doing in a second, I hope. I'm doing this because I want everything to refer to the same sheet, and I made some modifications to this number 2 sheet that are going to help us just narrow down. I'm just trying to build, action by action, step by step. So also going to change these, 02, 02, 02, and then the additional thing, right, is because I added these. So I want CH to equal 1. So let's just take this, and this is CH, and this is CH, and if I just put 1 there, that should do that. And so copy this part, and say this is O2, and this is O2, add that. So they've really only bought podcasting services here. Right, because the number didn't change. I should just figure out how to do a feed that's directly into the formula bar. Okay. So the reason I did that is I suspect that if we go down here, some of these may be 0. No. Oh, no. No. Interesting. Okay. But some of them are. See? These were just equipment purchases. So this is helping me now figure out. Let's see. So let's say equals if is, so that pound div divided by 0 is division by 0 error, because let's not do it that way. There are different ways to do this. One you can say is like, if there's an error here, then, oh yeah, no, I do need to do it like that. Yeah, sorry. Then if you know where the 0 divisor is, then you say if that equals 0, then the value here is 0. Don't perform the average function, or don't perform the division function, division inherent part of averaging, right? But here it's an average function, so I have to say if, or the way I handle this, I should say, is to say if there is an error with this long thing I just wrote, then put a 0 there, otherwise perform the operation. And now we'll get those to be 0s. And what we should do here is we're going to insert one below. We're going to change this. We'll freeze to 2 rows. We're going to freeze. Yeah, this is fine here. But we're going to sum this, right? Or we're going to do a few different things. We're going to sum here. Now we're going to average all of these. Well, I guess what we could do actually is mirror what we're doing. So we'll say equals min. See what I'm saying? We're going to do the min of the min. We're going to do the max of the min. We'll do the average of the min. Well, so here again. So we're going to say min if s range is that, criteria range is this, and it's equals greater than and 0, right? So we want the minimum that is not 0, is what I'm trying to get here. Some people are like, what the hell is he doing? What is going on here? This is it. This is a man using Microsoft Excel. So the minimum is 600. The maximum minimum is 232,339. Right. So for the which is kind of interesting. Like, who is the? Well, that's okay. So this is Department of Veterans Affairs, the TAC in New Jersey, but it's the same across everything. So that's not. that's not telling us much. Oh, but if they have 8, they have. This is confusing. The min max is 700. The max is so that the maximum anyone has spent is 325,000. The who only spent $700? This is like so. Who cares? Why do you care? So targeting wise, this can start to tell you some stuff, right? Like who did the most? What's the average value? Like if you are just looking at money spent as an indication, you're like, okay, so USAID. This part of USAID spent $10,000 on one podcast. It depends. I'm not saying that's not worth your while. Maybe that is worth your while. Maybe for your business that's worth your while, or maybe that's a way into some work at USAID, or maybe USAID is a customer of yours, or they're serving a mission that you're not for profit, or your academic institution, or your for-profit institution, whatever. Your government agency, you're another government agency. There's a collaboration there. Podcast is not an end in and of itself. Money is not an end in and of itself. This is a vehicle into some work with USAID, with this office. I don't know what that acronym stands for. M/OAA. But so you don't know. So let's. This is at the office level. So if we add 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here, though 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we're going to do the same thing now at the sub-agency and the agency level. So now this paint roller tool I'm using here clones the formatting from some cells to others. So now this is the same number formatting, column width, and all sorts of things. Do the same thing here. Now, because of the way this is set up, I can't just. Did not want to do that. I can't just take these and copy them over because they refer to different cells. So I'm going to do this manually here, and then I'm going to go in and modify some things. Some of it transfers, some of it doesn't. I didn't really set up this formula with that in mind, but we'll work this out. So, that was a mistake. I need to go into the cell and paste like that. Okay, so now it looks exactly the same. What do I need to change? Well, I need to change. So this part is the same because it's what am I adding up? What I need to change here is this part. It can't. I'm not looking at AD. I'm looking at because AD is the I'm pulling from here, but I'm going to look here because it's this one, AB. So I'm subtracting 2. So AD, AB. Oh, A5. That's this has to be K5. CH, this is 0. Agency, sub-awarding agency code. Right, that's right. So what's not happening? Let's just go over and do this and see if I can get this right. AB, AB. Oh, it's not K5, it's I5. That's what it is. I was sorry. I'm looking for the code. 10,000. So that other NIH office has I5. This one is messy, right? Because it's this whole thing. So we're going to say AB. Oh, I guess it's not that bad now that I think about it. AB. We have to change it in 2 places though, right? Because part of it's the test if this works, and part of it's doing it if it does work. I said that brings the average down. And the total will be higher. Slightly higher than $10,000. Okay. So that NIH is really the highest at a sub-agency level. But let's go and do the final thing and do it at the agency level. I got a suspicion that this little thing called the United States Department of Defense may be the winner. Although Health and Human Services may also be the winner because Health and Human Services has to do a fair amount of outreach to the U.S. population. U.S. Department of Defense, though, also has to do a fair bit of outreach to the U.S. population. Why? Because of this thing called the all-volunteer force that happened after the Vietnam War. Right? We have to recruit volunteers to fight in our military. And they don't just recruit themselves, guys. They gotta get recruited. And that can include podcast, listening to a podcast and hearing about stuff. It can include a lot of things. So that just said, again, I did this one. It's not S5, it's Q5. $10,000 is an interesting number because it's the like the government purchasing card threshold. It seems to me that's probably what that is. So that's like a credit card that authorized individuals in the government can use to buy things. Huh. Okay, anyway, let's keep going. I need to do this a lot when I'm making spreadsheets because you're like thinking about it as you do it, and that can slow you down. So it's like, gotta keep going. So this is going to be the same because like Department of State, the agency and the sub-agency are the same level. But here we're going to see like a bump because the Department of the Air Force is a part of the Department of Defense. Okay, so DoD overall during this study period spent $840,000. So Department of Health and Human Services probably is the winner. Yeah. So you see a lot of duplication here, right? Because this is where we're rolling up. And we could make a different table that has this just at the aggregate level. So if these are all the people who've bought, the other side of the equation is who are all the people who sold, right? So we could do a table where we're looking at customers on one axis and providers on the other axis, and figuring out number and dollar value of that. We can go in and look and see how these are awarded. Are these competitively awarded? Are these simplified acquisition procedures like we saw in that that one opportunity? So how is this? This is how it's getting purchased, right? We're going to go back at some point and look again at this list of how things were solicited for purchase. And that's going to tell you a little bit about okay, so you know that they're buying. How do you get to that acquisition? And then so that's part of it. Looking at the seller side, and then also I want to go in and really go through item by item here and figure out what podcast it is, and then figure out the podcasts I know, like from HHS. Can I find other podcasts that are not represented by the podcasts here, and how are they getting bought, right? Because this is what you're always finding here are tips of the iceberg, right? You think, oh, I found it all. You haven't found it all. There's more out there. It's not showing up, and it's not because it's a secret, okay? It's because the way that things get bought isn't always reflected in the systems. And this is and you can be using all sorts of high-end, you pay a lot of money per seat, per license tools, and if you don't know how to ask the question and you don't have a healthy amount of skepticism about what the system's giving you, you're not getting the whole picture. So let's end on figuring out what sub-agency, what Navy Special Operations Command podcasts are. Right? Is that interesting to you? That's interesting to me. I mean, we know Fish and Wildlife Service. We know some of it because we know about the Fish of the Week. Loma Media Partners. Makes sense, San Diego. Sound Recording Studios. Photo, map, print, publication, audio, visual. IGF, OT, IGF Podcast Services. SAP, Small Business Set-Aside Total. Not IT products or services. Okay, so we're going to look at Loma Media Partners. Loma Media Partners. Huh. EA Sports. Because this could be internal stuff too. I mean, when you think podcast, you may be thinking like, oh, here we go. You may be thinking that it's just, you may be thinking like the podcast you listen to, right? But like a lot of, oh, this is interesting. So can we match up? No, these guys go after a fair amount of stuff. Homeland Security, DARPA, National Science Foundation, Treasury, Naval History and Heritage Command, EPA, and IARPA. That's the Intelligence Advanced Research Projects Agency. This is cool. All right, look. We produce a... Oh, I've seen this podcast. Oh, no, I haven't seen this podcast. I've seen a different... Have I seen this podcast? I haven't seen this podcast. Maybe I have. What we've done. Okay, this doesn't. So, okay, this is what they've done. 50 episode series. So 50 episodes plus all this stuff. All right. Cost. $220. Now, see, this is it, right? They have this potential award amount, and they've done up to this amount, up to this amount, right? So this is an important just side note. Anytime you're like, oh my God, we just got this award for from the government, that is a not to exceed number. That is not necessary, especially for services. That is not like, because you may be thinking like, I went to the pharmacy and I bought a tube of toothpaste for $2.89, and I got the whole tube of toothpaste. That's not what the government says. The government says, I will pay you up to $2.89 for the full contents of that tube of toothpaste, but I will pay you in 1 cent increments. And if I only use $1.48 of that, that's all I'm going to pay you for. So just FYI, a lot of people are like, we had all these awards. It's like, yeah, but how much did you get paid for it? Different question. But here, we know that a little shy of $250,000, Navy Special Warfare Command bought this product from Loma Media. All right. So we got somewhere. Next week, next time, we'll compare that to what the Fish and Wildlife Service got for the Fish of the Week podcast. Compare seals and fish. That's work for another time. This is Richard Wheeler. This has been Richard Wheeler Works. Can't hit the button.